spokesperson for the Save Women's Sport Australasia, Ro Edge. Kia ora, thanks for your time today.
Good morning, nice to be here.
These guidelines, firstly, talk us through what were the guidelines and what impact did it have on women's community sport, Ro?
So the guidelines were begun to be developed back in 2021 at the direction of previous Sports Minister, Honourable Grant Robertson, and he asked Sport New Zealand to prioritise inclusion. So they created some guidelines that totally prioritised inclusion. In fact, it was inclusion over everything else. Fairness and safety for females didn't get a look in the entire document.
Yep.
And except to say that if females complained about their fairness and safety, that would be bullying, harassment and discrimination, and that they would need to go through a process of apologising to who they'd discriminated and bullied and harassed. So, yeah. So they were disastrous for fairness and safety for females in sport.
In terms of how this was played out, what was the impact of this? Do you have examples of how these guidelines were implemented in a way which was discriminatory against women?
Yes, pretty much every single sport around New Zealand had Inside Out and other trans lobby groups contact them and pretty much write their policies. And every policy started off with that threat that there was going to be no acceptance of bullying, harassment and discrimination. And then they outlined their self-ID policies. And what this meant is that we talk about community sport and it's insinuated that it's just fun and social, but it's not. It's all sport up until you represent your country.
Yeah.
And so we had girls and women missing out on all levels and they couldn't say anything. They were gaslit into being silent.
What is the impact for women in those spaces? Do you have examples of women who were forced to apologise or women who choose to say, well, hey, if those are the new rules, I'm sitting this one out. I'm deciding not to engage in community sport.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we call it the inclusion delusion because when you include male advantage in the female category, you automatically exclude females, the very people the category was set up entirely to include.
Yeah.
Just on Friday, I had a mum contact me, her daughter and her daughter's best friend ran in their school cross country last year and got third and fourth, and so the daughter's friend who got third thought she was going to interschools and she was rapt because her younger sister's a good sports girl, but she's not. So she thought, yes, I finally achieved something, only to find out the next day that she'd been knocked down to fourth position because a male had ID'd into the female category. And so they'd gone to see the principal again this year and said, look, this is unfair. What can we do? And basically they were told, look, that boy's testosterone hasn't, acknowledging he was male, hasn't really developed yet, so just get over it.
Wow.
One of the girls isn't going to compete this year.
That is super tragic. And honestly, some people might look at this and go, well, this is a very small group within society, that this is a fraction of a percentage of people that this will apply to. But from your experience, from the stories that you're getting, this is impacting a lot of community sport in just about every code and sport you can think of.
It is, yeah, across the board. And, it doesn't matter whether it's only one female impacted or whether it's hundreds or thousands. And I would say it's probably going towards the latter these days. It's that, every female's pathways, her fairness, feelings, safety, opportunities, they matter as well.
Yeah.
And we want everyone to be included in sport because of the immense physical and mental benefits it brings. But it needs to be in the category of their biological sex or in an open category so that we don't undermine the integrity of the female category and the pathways for our girls and women.
Yeah. There is an aspect of inclusion which is a good thing. And there is an aspect for saying, hey, whether or not people have a space where, regardless of their gender, which gender they identify with, there should be a place for them to participate in sport, as you mentioned before, in a fun way, not necessarily a competitive way, that people with perhaps a transgender philosophy should still be able to play sport. Concerns that this change in policy, the removal of these guidelines, will exclude these people from participating. What's your thoughts on that, Ro?
No, look, we've always had places for people of different gender identities. There's always been mixed social sports teams that have been available, but this isn't what it's about. It's about affirming people in their gender, in their chosen gender. And we don't all have that belief system, right? So what they're trying to do is force their belief system on us. We can make room in sport. I think the biggest challenge is probably in male sport. Females have always been quite accepting of the diversity of our sex. Some of our best female sportswomen are lesbians, and they've always been so welcome in the teams
Yeah.
because they're legends. But with males, there hasn't been that same acceptance of the diversity.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we really, really need to work on so people do feel more welcome and that they don't feel unsafe.
The removal of the policy guidelines, though, now this has never been law as such. These were just policy guidelines. However, regulations locked into place pretty quickly just with the guidelines. The removal of the guidelines may not quickly see the reversal of the policies that we've seen put in place. So what's your best outcome in this space, Ro?
Well, the best outcome would be for the sports to follow their international federations because they've all rejected the IOC's framework and they're actually moving to protect the female category. So we're hoping now that the sporting body that holds their funding levers no longer has these guidelines in place, that they will feel free to actually follow their international federations and to do the right things and protect the fairness of the female category.
Now that's this step in this direction. I mean, as I mentioned, that you are part of a group for Save Women's Sport Australasia. Are we ahead of the Aussies on this one? Because this is always what we like to compete with the Aussies on the sporting field, perhaps in the fairness area as well. Are the Aussies jealous?
Australia are some of the worst in the world. Australia and Canada, like we were close behind, but Australia is so much worse than us. I mean, there's a case in the Australian courts in the next week, Tickle versus Giggle. I don't know if you've heard about that, where a woman's only app is actually being taken to court for not allowing a man into it. And it will set a massive precedent whether she wins or not. Like if she doesn't, it would be disastrous. It would basically say that females have no female-only spaces in Australia at all.
Well, hey, at least in this area we can say, hey, Aussies, catch up. And we certainly hope that they do in that regard. A bit of a win for women's sport in Aotearoa, New Zealand, more of a level playing field in that regard. Ro, thanks for the work that you do. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.